Welcome, everybody. I'm Rambo, and welcome to Echoes of New Eden. Got a special roundtable episode for you today. I'll go over a couple things in game, and then we'll get to the roundtable chat where we discussed multiple topics. Let's check it out. All right, first things first, let's go to the Eve Echoes Discord and check the announcements. So the announcement this week, this was released yesterday at the time of this recording. In order to help all capsuleers get caught up sooner with T10 ships and scanning for nihilist space, we will give away free skill points with a new version on July 7th. So once the maintenance begins on July 7th, they'll take a snapshot of all the players who had at least 30 days left on their Omega combo at the time. Qualified players can join the event for free between the end of maintenance on July 7th through the 28th. If you aren't qualified at the time, simply purchase Omega to get the 30 plus days, and that's the Omega combo, to get the 30 plus days to automatically qualify. So there is a skill point distribution formula. It's about 2% of the character's current skill points total when joining the program. Skill points will be available to claim in equal amounts over 30 days. You can claim it daily or wait until all of them have been distributed. The total amount distributed stays the same. So there is a formula. You can check it out on their Discord under the announcements. The formula is based on your total current skill point amount. The earlier you join the event, the more skill points you can receive. The additional skill points accrued from this will need to be manually claimed. Unclaimed skill points from this bonus will be removed after September 30th, 2021. So it's going to catch people up. It's going to give you some SP and hopefully closer to T10. I know last time I checked, I'm still like 70 days away from T10. So I'm hoping that will close that gap a little bit. Let's get to patch notes. So this week, the June 30th version patch notes, just a couple bug fixes this week, and it seems like they're still having issues with nanocores. Fix an issue where black screen problems may occur while customizing nanocores for certain ships. And they fixed an issue where nanocores weren't properly changing the appearance of the Prophecy command, the Ferox command, the Myrmidon command, and the Cyclone command. So in player support news, just one thing, they touched on outposts. The question was, if I put fuel into the fuel tank, but my outpost is still in low power mode, the structure services such as Industry Service Center and Resource Extraction Management Center need to be fitted to the outpost, and the state of the outpost will be normal. That is, it will come out of low power state, and then it'll probably just say vulnerable in that case, which is normal. And then getting into the media, they did have a Twitter tweet about this event coming up with the skill points catching up. And then they had a ban notice. They banned 431 accounts, and it looks like a majority of them are abnormal anomaly behavior. So I wonder if people are actually getting a lot of these people in the since the scanning update. It seems like the accounts banned have diminished quite a bit recently. All right, well that's it for the Eve Echoes updates from the official Eve Echoes Discord. So we'll get into the roundtable next. All right, welcome to a special episode of the Eve Echoes Roundtable. I have some special guests with me, and we will discuss some Eve Echoes topics provided by fans of the show. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, ready for sure.
Hell yeah.
All set.
Yeah,
Let's do
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
Cool, so let's do introductions. Today we have Hound with us. What's up, Hound?
Not much. How's it going?
Good. And then we also have Trogdor. What's up, Trogdor?
Oh, not much. Just looking forward to going over all these interesting topics.
Yes, interesting indeed. And then we got Elementary with us. What's up, Ellie?
Hi there, guys.
Hey, so yeah, elementary's with us. It's about 3 a.m. his time, so he's stayed up this long to be with us to talk with us. So cool. And then Immortals, what's up, Immortals?
Bang bang, what's up, baby?
What's up, Rip? Yeah, yep. I like saying that now because of you. Every time I say it,
Rip.
Rip. And Judge, what's up, Judge?
What up, guys?
All right, so a couple of you guys is the first time that you've been on Roundtable, and then a couple of you guys have already been on Roundtable, so you guys know how it goes. So we have some topics this week. I have multiple topics that will include, but are not limited to, what is a blacklist, and how do you get on or off it? Are the or gravity traps, quote, shitty, end quote? Content creators versus commenters. How did scanning impact Lowsec and story ratting? And large corp versus small corp. Which do you prefer? So I'll start with the first one. What is a blacklist and how do you get on or off it? Who wants to start?
I can start with that one. Blacklist basically untouchables. Someone who is, if they're recruited into, or if they come into my corporation or my alliance or into our coalition, they're just toxic, just completely toxic. For me, I've got a blacklist specifically for SBQR and KTF, and then there's some for all of Catch 22. But the easiest way to get on it for me is just any kind of racism. It's just, you're done, you're gone, it's over. I don't care if it's a joke or whatever. It's over. My blacklists are usually shared with all my recruiters, and if there was someone who's kicked out of SBQR or KTF and is on a blacklist, I will make it very much aware to all my line members. I'll make an announcement if they did something that was just really bad. And to get on my blacklist, you have to do something really bad. But yeah, I'll make sure everyone knows in my alliance that person's on there for any given reason. It's not easy to get it on in KTF, but once you're on, it's over, kind of thing.
Respect.
Wait, isn't the blacklist is not for Siri and Jeddah local?
Oh, they're on there.
So what exactly though is a blacklist? I think not everybody gets to see these lists. Not a normal line member doesn't really get to see a blacklist. Well, maybe if a corp does have it accessible to members, but typically it's like recruiting status or higher, your officers, corp leaders and all that. They have access to these blacklists that really nobody else gets to see.
Yeah, like we've got one. Most of my recruiting is done by a single person or a couple people, and they have a list of people that, like I said, it's just it's people that are untouchable. If they contact us, if they put an application in, if there's any chance that someone applying to us is part of that list, we basically have it as a channel in Discord where it comes down. If you've got a list of names, their associated names, and their character cards. And if you see them come around, you see them on anything, you just ignore them, you remove them, whatever it is. Just immediately. That you don't see, or line members don't see. Only my recruiting guys see that, but we've got one there specifically for that stuff.
Okay, I just wanted to say I've been on the other side of the blacklist more times than most people, and most of the time the easiest way to get on the blacklist is by generally either going against a corp very heavily politically, like because I use the platform for social media like YouTube and so forth. Because of those types of actions, generally they'll end up blacklisting you without you even having a direct involvement with corps. I don't know if a lot of people know about it, but a lot of corps do have that way of associating people. If they know they're associated with certain alliances or certain groups, they blacklist them because of the risk to destroying their structure within their alliance. I'm not sure if anybody else can relate to it.
Well, I've never been on the opposite side of a blacklist. I've seen them in the alliances that I've been in, just because of my status within my corp. But yeah, it's like, how does somebody really get blacklisted though? And you didn't say it. A couple points toward it. It's like you go against, say, the corporation or alliance rules. You make snarky comments or racist comments or anything along those lines to be able to get blacklisted. Treason can get you blacklisted. Doing side deals or just sketchy stuff. Being a spy, if you found out, if you did get found or accused of being a spy, I suppose you can get blacklisted like that. But I'm actually curious, Immortals, you said that you got blacklisted, or how many times have you gotten blacklisted and why?
Man, I think just people don't like my demeanor and my ambition. I'm not necessarily toxic in any way, shape, or form, but I just feel like with the recent separation, I feel like I am on that blacklist. Especially using the Echoes of New Eden podcast. Like a lot of people didn't like what I had to say, especially at the end. And that's one way to get on the blacklist, especially if people take it personally, which a lot of people do in New Eden. It's just the way it is, I can say right now, the blacklist is a group of individuals that are just pretty much outcasted, and certain people in leadership just don't like at all. For example, Lightkander was on the blacklist and getting fed, and I talked to Lightkander, and he was like, "Man, I never even spoke to someone in and out once, and I was on that blacklist." So,
How do you know you got put on a blacklist though?
it's just a feeling, or they announce it.
Well, I've never seen an announcement saying, or at least like an alliance-wide announcement of somebody getting blacklisted. Typically, it's only leadership that really sees that type of stuff.
If you want to talk to someone about getting blacklisted, you should look at Cosmic Hawk. He's been blacklisted by most of Panjam 22, and they are not ashamed about it.
So, how about on the other side, though? Let's say they did get blacklisted. How does one get taken off the blacklist? Is that even possible?
I definitely think it's possible. I've removed some people from a blacklist. There are some people that I wouldn't remove. People who, you'd have to. The big thing for me, like I said, my big one that puts someone on a blacklist is racism, and I don't usually pull people off a blacklist for that, especially if they won't apologize for it. I mean, there are different people with different cultures, so they'll say something they won't realize that was racist or whatever, and then you'll explain it to them, and they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't realize. I'm so sorry about that," and they'll stop, and that's perfectly fine. I've had that happen. But then there are people, I dealt with it with a corporation R34. I put that entire coalition or alliance, or sorry, corporation on my blacklist because of the way they acted. They were saying making racist comments in local, and immediately they were removed from my coalition. They were immediately removed from the alliance that they're a part of in my coalition. And the way they acted after that was they owned it. They sat there and said, "Yeah, we did that, and we're not ashamed of it. We're gonna do that," and like that's permanent right there. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm all about second chances. I'm all about like saying, "Okay, man, you grew, you learned, whatever. You can come back, but you have to be able to admit that you're wrong, or give them. I would give them a shorter leash kind of thing. Growth is important." Not just in Eve, but in life. And anyone who's showing that kind of growth, I'm willing to give a second chance to.
Yeah, to follow behind what Hound is saying, it's about people not being able to read the room. They come in, Eve, and any mobile game or online game, you have a choice of being a different person from who you are in real life, or you play who you are in real life. and basically either they come in trying to be a tyrant / forceful leader, or they could just be a following soldier, and they just do not read the room to see if people are replying to their messages or to their forum ups or to their repair reps.
Yeah.
Another thing on the note with a lot of those topics that a lot of people get blacklisted for, most of them are an open expression of opinion. Example on the objectivity of racism and jokes. It's such a heavy topic because so many countries, the entire comedian sector uses racial stereotypes for jokes, and it ends up becoming the backline of a lot of jokes that people will break. And without you knowing who's talking, it becomes impossible for you to know whether it's racism or not. And it can end up getting you on blacklists very easy. I've been on a blacklist for that very purpose because someone managed to use the word he was racist, and they managed to use that to get me out of a corp. And then after that, after investigations completed, I think it was 3 months or so, they decided that they wouldn't hold up the blacklist. And that's one time when I actually got off a blacklist because they figured that the argument was just against it. It was an example of you saying something that ended up putting me in trouble.
Yeah, that's one. When it comes to those kind of accusations, that's one thing I've really noticed is that in a hugely multicultural game like this, where there's people from all over the world, you do get people who will say something they don't realize it. And anytime someone's acting racist or has said something racist, the first thing I do is talk to that person. And I've always said, hey, what did you mean by this? Sometimes I can tell when someone's deliberately trying to be racist, but a lot of times it's just a joke. People don't get that was the way that was perceived is very poorly. And a rule I've sort of adopted unofficially in KTF is that you should never insult someone based on anything but what's going on in the game. No race, no gender, no whatever. Only in the game. If they're a crap pilot, you can make fun of them for being a crap pilot. But if they're from somewhere else, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Only if they're Minmatar. You can only make fun of their Minmatar.
Wow, that's
Hey, I'm a Mimitar fan. I agree to flying scrap metal and solar panels.
And duct tape. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all Minmatar pilots at heart, anyways.
duct tape is very useful. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm all about giving members second chances and whatnot, but I mean, up to the extent of blacklisting a member, a player, a person, it really just depends on what they do. I see people blacklisted all the time for either A, being toxic, that can include bad jokes or racism or whatever, whatever could be considered toxic. I've seen people that have done theft and get blacklisted just because of that, and spies get blacklisted once they're outed. So I've seen all of those recently, so it happens. Every alliance has a blacklist, and pretty much they are shared. Maybe it depends on the alliance. Some of the blacklists are shared from alliance to allied alliance. And so if somebody gets blacklisted, then not only can you join a corp within the alliance that you got blacklisted from, but you can't join any of their allies or their allies. So it goes down the list, and then all of a sudden now you're homeless and you have to join a corp that is considerably on the other side of the galaxy, or red to your current alliance for whatever reason, or you have to live in high sec. So it, in a way, because of whatever action that got you on the blacklist, it ruined the game definitely for you. So, Trogdor, did you have something to say?
Oh, I was just going to kind of follow up to what Hound had said, and I think Elementary before that in terms of investigation. I think that's like a big key. Is there's some groups that are better at like looking into it before jumping to put people on a blacklist, and there may be some that are more quick to do that. Like I know we have like an IA ticket system, So it's like if you've got something, you can put all of your reasoning into why or what your accusation is in there, and then the other person can put anything to respond or to, back up their why they did what they did in there. And then it's like, more of a leadership as a whole looks at it. And I think that helps avoid people getting thrown on there, because we have those things with culture where someone makes a joke and then they're not realizing like, oh, I have this person in this corp is from this particular country and that's, that's offensive. So I think doing the due diligence up front can keep that blacklist cleaner with the people that really should be on it,
Right.
versus like emotional reaction to they've upset me, they made me mad, they're going on there.
So it sounds like you have like a fully operational HR department then.
We do. They don't always like being HR because I like to open tickets and accuse HR of being mean to me. But like they do their due diligence, and then they archive all of them because they keep record of them in Discord, so they can always refer back to them. So that way, if somebody tries to join, like you said, another corp in the alliance, whatever, and they reach out to us and go, "Hey, what do you know about this person?" We have like a record of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's all recorded. So if you're on a blacklist, I'm sorry, but that's yeah, nothing else much you can do about it except play the game. I know Immortal's over there sweating it. But anyway, let's get to the next one though. And this is something I really don't know too much about. This is probably something for our industry guys, and that's these ore gravity traps. And so I had a fan of the show comment on my chat the other day that they're really shitty, and we need to talk about that. So how shitty are they?
I mean, it depends. I think the biggest downside of the ore gravity traps is those are like the nihilist space ore traps, right? That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they can be fairly good. I've been part of a couple of them. We made about 200 mil in compressed ore. Downside is they spawn once a week when you have with the gravity wells. They spawn at a very specific time, but that's once a week. I think it costs somewhere around 50 mil in fuel just to start them. So you're making 150 mil off that, and you're waiting one whole week for it. It's not worth it, in my opinion, to be 100% honest.
So should I just take the ones that I have and scrap them and put DS wells on? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I would do personally.
Yeah, the red wells are. I've been in numerous of the Dead Space ones, and even with the issues, we go into a whole other thing about the the materials and B type, C type, all of that stuff. Like even with that not being where it needs to be, those are far better than the ore ones. We've had in multiple systems, people remove all the blues, swap them out for reds, and we'll get a call out like in our alliance chat, and you'll just see crickets. I mean, no one wants to bother going 5-10 jumps for them. And I'm also curious, while I was under the impression they weren't supposed to spawn below a certain level, but we're finding like T3 and T4, compressed ore events, and it's that, and, to me, I'm like, that's not worth it in the slightest, to bother with that.
Yeah, the compressed ore can spawn as low as T3, I believe. The nihilists can only spawn as low as T6. But the deads, I mean, can only spawn as low as T6.
Yeah, so this is yeah, interesting. Mortal.
Rip.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's hard to say. What's up, Judge?
All right. So basically, since I am an indie guy, the value, even if you're in a T1910 for a minor well, a N3, N4 that you find out in random space is almost on the same value level, like how Pound was saying, per not having to wait 7 days and the amount of money that you pay of fuel that you have to pay for. So they definitely do not pay out. Where if you do the same with a DS well, at least you know you're going to get a guaranteed 1 to 2 billion from that, generally speaking.
Yeah, interesting. Now, these ore gravity traps. These are the ones that are spawned from the player-owned stations. What about the other ones that you find randomly in space? Are those like the same thing, or are these the ones off the POSs better?
Yeah, they are exactly the same thing, except that your initial room is 100% private for a while. Because I swear, sometimes it looks like someone can come into your private DS or mine well, and I just don't understand the mechanics. We just go in, do what we need to do, and then just hurry up and get out. Because why even risk if there's like some bad code or something that someone can enter your secured mine?
Oh yeah, they're super laggy too. I've noticed that. You have to drop the graphics all the way down. Yeah. Any other thoughts on these?
Just another long thing on the list of issues that NetEase hopefully one day will address. I mean, that list is growing.
I shoot people, not rocks, so I have no idea what we're talking about.
And then too, since I'm an industry spreadsheet guy, the actual cost to make a miner well is 25% less than a DS well, and a Pi mod is only like 8 or 10% less than a DS well. So they even have it coded to being one of the cheapest made mods for the new things that they did themselves.
Interesting. But yet they're still considerably crap. Okay, well, we'll call that as an unpopular topic. Maybe not a whole lot of people are using the ore wells, and maybe they're just kind of relying on the ones that spawn randomly in the belts. So, all right.
Okay, one last
There was
thing.
one thing
Wait. Oh, sorry. Go elementary.
So there's one thing that I do know about a lot of the items that I introduced with the current run. They were heavily tested and they were extremely well nerfed to ensure that they weren't going to allow that high rise of income for individuals, because they found that a lot of people, when their income started to skyrocket in the game, their spend in real life started to decline. And obviously, we know NetEase is a business. So it's part of the reason why these generally overpowered systems are so crappy at the moment.
Judge, did you have something to say on that?
Yeah. Okay. So I remember what I was going to say. Why? So with the miner wells, they only produce rich ore, which only gives you 10x over a regular rock that you can go mine. Meanwhile, if you do a DS well, you can't just every day go out and mine, faction debris and C-type gear. That takes, you have to pop a noms, you have to try to find the specials, and then hope that a DS spawns. If with the miner well, okay, you get 10x of what you can do at any time. You can log in morning, afternoon, or night, and you'll still get it. You just won't get 10x, but you can still get the exact same thing, but you can't do the same thing with C-type gear.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, so that will probably be discussed later on, and we'll see if NetEase decides to make those better or not. So yeah, we'll just have to see what the future is with those. And so that'll lead us into the next topic, and this one can be quite controversial. So content creators versus commenters. Now, in the history of this game, we have content creators. So I am a content creator, Elementary. He's done content creation in the past, and everybody knows Benzi and Gengar, and there's tons of content creators, right? Now, I will fight in the content creator realm as to, like, all content creators like have their opinions on the game. Some content creators just do videos of PvP battles and all that. But when you're doing media, or if you're doing ship fits or just an opinion video in general, typically they get a lot of backlash. Damon Zell, for example, he gets a lot of backlash for stuff that's untrue. Benzie gets a lot of backlash for fits that may not be the best fit, right? We know about this stuff. Let's see who else, you know. So, and actually, and I want to touch on a subject too between two of you guys that are in here. So Elementary and then Judge. So Elementary does content creation videos, and he often provides his own opinion to this. And I think Judge, I mean, you guys, Judge, you tell the story on that, because you comment on his videos, and I guess Elementary took it the wrong way, but clarify that.
All right. So basically, most people know with YouTubers, the bigger they are, the less they'll reply to you. I've always noticed that with YouTubers that have lower subscriber counts, even like Benzie, Xscoundrel, and whoever else was doing it in the beginning, they tend to reply. Now, for my 37 years on this earth, I've noticed that. And so I like it when content creators can reply to you, especially when you can have a discussion of back and forth. And I tend to follow the KISS method of keep it simple and to use the fewest words. And I think my belief is that my curt, to the point things, specifically with Elementary, there were some things that he said that I wasn't going to reply to, but once he said a very specific thing, I said, whoa. You know, I may comment on your videos, I may disagree and agree, but there's not one thing I will ever say, just like how Brown said, I will never attack someone personally of who they are or anything. I can shit talk with people of like, oh man, you're going to get us blown up. You're not FCing right. You're going to do this and that. But I will never say you're a bad FC because you're X or because you're young, old, or whatever. And so I wanted to clear that up with Elementary because, hey, I'm here and we can talk about anything at any time.
Same note. The reason why I really took it as a personal assault is what was said was taken out of context. There's a whole lot of context being given to everything that I'm speaking about, and then I'm putting on the personal emphasis on personal incidents and giving a reason why I'm giving that opinion. And I'm giving the opinion from myself, from other people's perspectives. It's actually it was based off major topics that were floating around in the game. I believe even Sky News covered it. So when I knew that it was double backed up with more than one source, I generally will go with a very controversial topic. And to be honest, it's a very broad spectrum. Generally, to fight against them, the comments can be very simple. You can be like, no, but not all cops do this. But, simple statements like that. There's no reason for a statement to be like, you're envious of leadership, because there's no reason to say that I'm saying I could have done a better job in leadership. I'm the one who should have been the leader. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the leadership structures in these big corps have led to downfalls within the games. And that's my recent one. Before this, one of the things which a lot of people didn't agree with me on was fighting NetEase on their nerfs. Because I said that they nerfed the game where the players are enjoying it. So they're literally taking away the enjoyment factor. And I know I had a whole lot of people fighting with me about it. That fight went on for, I think, 140 comments. 150 comments. I think that's my biggest video on my channel.
Yeah, so, I mean, that goes to the topic. All content creators have their own opinion. And the commenters, I don't know if they think they know more than content creators do. Maybe they do in certain subjects. But then again, there's some that just like to be trolls. And Judge, I'm not saying that you're a troll or anything like that, but there are people that just solely troll content creators just to agitate them, and we know this because people do it to Benzie all the time.
I was gonna say, I think you're right on that. Where there's people that doesn't matter if what you say is right, wrong, good, bad. People just like to screw with people, and they like to just spark that up, and then they'll leave the thread altogether, or just back out of it and watch people fight, and that's their entertainment. And then I think there are times where, because of people like that, people that have legitimate criticisms, constructive criticisms, things like that, they get sometimes unfairly attacked as being a troll. I think it's kind of that's the reaction. If it's happened a bunch, people react to the extreme on people that may not be trying to do that.
Yeah, and for those people that do that, those are the very people that are probably on the blacklist that we talked about before, because they just cause controversy and chaos just for the sake of it, and that's not helping anybody. And like with me in elementary, I've done similar comments even to Benzie, poor Benzie, who gets the heat out of everyone, where even with him, he replied to one of my comments and was just like, damn, man, like, you're right, but you don't have to say it that way. But the truth is the truth.
Mortal, you got something to touch on this? I know you're posting gifs like crazy in our chat.
I don't know. I'm just sitting back watching. If I had some popcorn, that'd be nice. Yeah. I've been a victim to the whole copy pasta. On Reddit and on, one of my YouTube videos. I'm in the process of trying to be a content creator also, but I feel like if it's not support, don't even say it. I mean, yeah, some people like criticism. That's cool, because especially when I FC, I like a little bit of criticism because not every FC is, perfect. But yeah, for those individuals that just are out there just to agitate people are just the worst type of people.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Note of comments. Well, most content creators don't mind a bit of fair criticism. I may be talking for myself. I may be talking for a whole lot of people when it comes to this. But a person will accept something like you're non-coherent in your speech. Your explanation of a topic was too muddled up. You put too many things together to get your topic across. You push too much into too short of a period of time. And I get those things and I get those reasonings from people. It's one of the reasons why I extended my videos from 10 minutes all the way to 30 minutes, because a lot of people used to get confused with the shorter format. So I ended up going with the larger format. And things like that were done because of criticism. And to be honest, any one of my videos, they generally take about an hour to 2 hours worth of research. And that's going through tons of information. And then I have to nitpick that information to either match my topic or to disprove my topic. And then on top of that, I still have to do dry runs on actually saying out the entire 30-minute video. And if it goes too long, then I have to try and cut it down. Sometimes what I've planned for 30 minutes ends up being like 4 hours. And what comes out in that final cut is 4 hours worth of work condensed into 30 minutes.
Right. Yeah, so just content creation in general, just making YouTube videos or even something like this, a podcast, it actually takes quite a bit of time to do. Benzie does it all on his phone. I know Damon Zell, I think Damon Zell's got a new computer now and he's working with some new software. I'm using all like audio editing software and recording software and all that. And, it takes a while to put this stuff out there. And then when you get people that backlash over it, I mean, it does suck, but there's also constructive criticism too. It's like, if I'm doing a shitty job, let me know and then see how I can improve it. This is the first podcast I've ever done, so I'm always open to ideas as to how to make it better, stuff like that. But as far as me getting backlash, Now, I haven't really gotten any backlash, like personally, no death threats or anything yet, but most of which was just people saying, don't have that guest back on. That guest is toxic. It mostly revolved around the guest or the person I talked to.
I would just say that I think overall you want content creators, if you're a fan of the game and you want to see the game continue, inherently you should want content creators to succeed because they're drawing attention to the game and hopefully attracting people to play or to stay on it. So I think that the people that are volatile in the comments or whatever, I mean, I would question what their ultimate goal is, because I mean, like I would love Benzie to become, you know, the number 10 in YouTube or whatever, if it means more people are going to come to the game and the game is going to grow and it's going to continue. I think that's the thing too, is what's the goal of your content creation? You know, is it focused on trying to promote the game? Is it pushing the game in a good direction, or are you just crapping on the game constantly? Like, there's got to be a balance.
Yeah, so the I had a point. Go, Elementary.
No, I need to finish your point first. I'll go after you, Rambo.
Yeah, but I forgot it.
Sorry. Okay. So, on the note of having good points for the game, it's something that you can always try to find within the game. But for example, we've got Eve. Eve literally is like a show of so many bad things for a good game. They start off with over 2 million downloads in their first month. They managed to curb the download pattern, which most games actually expand on the download pattern. They managed to change up the entire system that existed within their play. They decided to follow a predestined path instead of following the player path. And they ended up hurting the game more and more. And they keep following that same path that they want to go down instead of following the better path for the game. You know what? You have games like Seven Deadly Sins, StarCross. That game went up to, 300 million downloads. When it first started, it was struggling to get past 1 million. Then you've got games like Raid. They grow on a monthly basis and they're so huge. And that's because they invest in the right parts of their community. They're willing to spend a small amount. They're willing to get new people in. Then you get games like Eve, where the content, not the content creators, where the dev team won't pull a new content creator in. And the existing content creators have to fight with each other for the simplest of bonuses. They're not giving us any reason to cover their content. And the content is getting weaker and weaker. It's becoming too much of a hassle to actually provide good content. And then they expect us to use the content creator server with maximum skills to give the fair points. And it really doesn't come across correctly.
Yeah, and to the point earlier with just the content creators are creating content because we actually enjoy the game. We want to teach about the game. We want to get players involved with the game. And so we're doing this, we're spending our time to talk to people, to do things that we like to do. This is why I'm doing this with you guys, because we're talking about the game that we play every day and we all enjoy it in some way or another, right? And when there's commenters that are just constantly toxic and they try just feeding anger and all this into content creators just to get them to snap, it's not good. We're already limited on content creators as it is. And Elementary, you make a good point. I'm not sure if you're in the content creator channels anymore on the official Eve Echoes Discord, but yeah, it's pulling teeth trying to get new stuff to talk about. Everybody's have already made videos of everything that's in the game currently. And one thing that I'm a little bit disappointed about in the structure that they have is they have the senior content creators. And there's a couple of them that are in that channel that I don't see, even though I'm a content creator. And they get info slightly before all the rest of us. And yeah, do they deserve it? Did they put the time in? Do they have the views? All that stuff? Yes, they do. But when there's a whole pool of content creators trying to get stuff to talk about to get out to the players, it's just hard to fight over that stuff. And yeah, as soon as something new comes out, then that's when all the info comes out in 20 different perspectives.
On that same note, I'm still part of the CC, but generally I stay away from the CC because I'll put up a note, and the one thing that I've began to see with the content creators is most of them have drifted away from the broad spectrum content creation. They people higher up in leadership generally, they don't see the lower perspective of players. Ever since I joined the game, I've been dodging leadership, to be honest. Every time someone told me to take over a certain role, I'd always run away from that role. I'll always stay to the bottom. I prefer to be in the bottom of the feed because I feel that it gives you a better feel for the game. Because if you don't have that passive income from, say, for example, being the corp leader or the co-director, you don't have that power at your disposal, and it doesn't ruin the gameplay for you. Like when I used to go out and ret for 6-7 hours a day and make billions, I used to feel powerful in the game. And a lot of people don't get that you have to do that to succeed.
Right. All right. Well, I think we can move on to the next topic there. So yeah, that's good. Good note. So our next topic is, how did scanning impact Lowsec and story writing? Now, I think we could all agree that when scanning came out, Lowsec got demolished. And I remember hearing from the devs, somebody said it, that Lowsec was too safe, and it was never intended to be that safe.
It was the best thing that has happened to this game since it launched.
I can't say after joining No and the damage we've done since we've been in No for the past, I think, 2-3 weeks now. Nobody's safe at all with this scanning thing, and I agree with the judge. It's literally one of the best things that's ever happened. I'm tired of people safing up when they, are scared to take a fight. It's either you're in system and you're gonna take the fight, or you're just gonna, not take the fight. So.
On that note of the Lowsec, if I am correct, when I jumped on about 3 weeks ahead of Nullsec, not Nullsec, before Lowsec became available through scanning, if I'm correct, the mission prices were almost at 80% of the reward. So you were paying 80% just to buy a mission. And if you look at it now, those prices have dropped so much because that's how low the performance is. And if you think about it, for a fair gain to the game, they didn't do the game justice. They actually hurt the game more. And the price of Plex, when it's rising higher and higher, it's actually a good sign that the game has growth within it, that something is actually taking on a better value. But with the bottoming out of Plex, the bottoming out of those prices, it says that the gain from the game is too low. It's not a good enough investment. And when your time isn't a good enough investment, then it's not fun to play the game. It becomes more bothersome and a bigger chore to complete anything. And that safety factor, it may have stopped somebody from going and fighting every single day of the week, but it did help keep the game churning over with some income. And you're going to feel it over the period of time when corps go from having 300 to 400 players to having 20 and 30 players. And a lot of people don't know how this feels, but generally when those numbers decrease, your activities decrease, and you end up losing that community feeling that you have in your corps. That is the one thing that these impacts are really hurting. That's when most corps lose their flow.
Yeah, just people got a shock in Lowsec. All those people that were AFK story running, just doing their thing like they have been for months, had a shock. Their eyes literally exploded when they ended up getting jumped while they were ratting, because it's never happened before.
I mean, I think you're right, but I think at the same time, like, scanning coming was it had been everywhere. So it was not it's not like people got caught out of the blue, and the amount of people that were just, I mean, offended and upset and angry, like, they knew this was coming. And if they didn't want to adjust their play style or adjust or prepare for that, I mean, ultimately that's on them. I mean, there's simple solutions to avoiding a lot of it, which is like, hey, I don't know, play with somebody else. Don't be isolated and by yourself. If you have 2 or 3 people running some of these big story missions, you're not going to get jumped, because a lot of the people that are getting jumped by 1 or 2 people. I mean, and if you've been I mean, like me, I've lived in nullsec since like the game started, so this is nothing new. Everything you do, you become second nature, that you watch for people. That if you see people in the system, you keep your local up, you keep your local open. It makes it where this is an active game. You have to have an active participation in what you're doing. You cannot just put it on autopilot anymore unless you're in high sec. And I think that's what the game has always been. That's what EVE Online was. That's what this is supposed to be. I just don't think people can argue that this was just a total blindside, because we've been hearing about scanning on their roadmap since like day one. So if you didn't prepare and you want to play solo the entire time, you have to shoulder some of that what's happened to you.
Somebody on the same time, like I was saying about not following through.
Elementary, something's up with your mic. Yeah, so the people that were low-sec ratting, yeah, it used to be safe, sure. But then, yeah, you have to, since scanning come out, maybe did they really know that it was coming? There's still a lot of people that don't even check Discord or EVE News or anything like that. Have never played EVE before. They found their niche, and then all of a sudden that got taken from them. So, I mean, there's that aspect of it, but then there's the people that do know the EVE, and they have lived in low-sec, or not low-sec, but null-sec, and they know to keep local. They know to align, and when they get a local spike, depending on how many or whatever happens, they can just warp to a gate or a station that's within the system, and they'll be safe because the gates will protect them.
So what I was saying before my mic started acting up was, this is another problem with analysis. They following a predetermined roadmap instead of following their community. If they followed the community from the start, they most probably would have had a much larger game right now. We most probably would have overflowing sectors. We most probably would be somewhere in the region of 20 to 30 million players. But that's the thing. They chose their roadmap. They chose to make this your second EVE Online. EVE Online had too many problems to start with. That's how come it kept bottoming out at that 10 million figure instead of growing to League of Legends numbers in the hundreds of millions, instead of growing to other major title figures. And this is the thing that's really not on the right curve. They've decided to take a predetermined roadmap. They've decided to take an easier path instead of taking the little bit more difficult path. Adjust your model every 2 or 3 weeks and follow the flow of the players. Grow for the players instead of shrinking the game to your desire. It's basically what I'm saying that the devs should have done for a long time. That's why I put so much of emphasis against the devs in my videos.
Yeah, so I bet corporations like these Merc Corps, Immortals, you're liking this whole thing with the story with the ratters because they happen to be juicy kill mails.
Very juicy. Rattlesnakes like almost every day are being killed.
That's interesting. Yeah, you would think that they would adapt in some way.
Yeah, basically with those people that commented on Reddit saying, "What the heck? I got jumped inside my story mission. How did this happen?" That just shows the actual issue and the plus that we actually gained in the game from these people, either that they quit the game or that they're just sticking to high sec now. Basically, what I'm saying is I look at it like ripping off a Band-Aid. If this game is going to die, then let the company decide these choices. And if the game is going to die, then it's going to die. But since the game is still going, that means it's not. The servers are still up. They're still making their monthly payments on it. And you got to make the joy in your game. And as anyone, we always want the changes that are upcoming to be to the benefit of us and what we like to do. Like Immortal and I go PvP routing all the time. And when the scanners came out, whoo, man, just like how he said, those kill mails were off the hook. Because I lost a nightmare way back in the day, back in February of this year. And so I make it my mission to gain about 13 billion in kills a week to avenge my nightmare that I lost.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, so when that happened with the scanning, Elementary had said that, with the story mission cost came down, the Plex dropped like 400 million or something like that, maybe even a little more. Just it took an insane hit, and it was a hit that I didn't even expect.
I think this is a lot too, though, like what happened when if we remember when Bubbles first came out. Anybody that was in nullsec at that time, like I know that affected a slightly smaller part of the community, but there was people that would autopilot everywhere through nullsec, and it was like one day it's like you can't do that anymore. Like if you want to, that's fine, but there is a risk that you're taking by doing that. You're going to potentially lose ships. You're going to potentially lose, things. Now, it's bubbles are, just a part of life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even think about them. The same thing with scanning. Like there was this huge influx, but also now, as you mentioned, you would think people adapt, and some people have. If you're choosing or if you're refusing to adapt, you deserve to lose your ship. If you're refusing to work within the new mechanics of the game, then you're going to get killed, and no one's going to feel bad for you. No one's going to come, hear you're crying on Reddit. You're going to get what you get because you're not adapting. And then I think Judge said it best. We all want all these changes to be to what benefits us. Well, like I don't do PvE that much. I PvP, so this is great. If they wouldn't have done it and they would have continued to favor PvE, all the PvP players would be upset. I mean, there's no way to appease everybody in the game at one time. Like you do have to understand that there's going to be sections of the community that are always going to be upset. That doesn't mean that the devs are doing all the right decisions or they're all the wrong decisions, but there's got to be an understanding that like not everybody's always going to be happy with this stuff.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's survival of the fittest. I remember when autopilot was completely safe. Remember that? Autopilot used to be completely safe. Then it was
Feels
patched.
like years ago.
Yes, and then it was patched, and the devs said, no, autopilot was never supposed to be that way. That was a bug. You were immortal autopiloting in nullsec. And then when Bubbles came out, people adapted to that at first. Depending on which side of the bubble you're at, you were either having fun or you're having a bad day. So people adapted to that. You could almost, there's certain systems in the galaxy where it's pretty much guaranteed to be bubbled. You already know that. Just living in nullsec or living in the certain areas that you have an understanding of how to live in nullsec, and so you know what to look for. You pretty much know what to expect, and you can have ways to work around it. This one with scanning, another thing people are just adapting to, and Lowsec, maybe that player base is having the hardest time to adapting to it.
One of the other things I have to say is adapting is fine, right? Overall. But the one thing that always works out for the better is when you have a larger PvE base, like 50 to 60 times greater than your PvP base, because it always works out better for everybody. When your PvE base shrinks, then it's only PvP versus PvP. and you end up in that little bottleneck where ISK starts to get really, really rare. And if you end up with that coming in too quickly, that's when you don't have a food pyramid anymore. And food pyramids are needed in any type of adaptation. If your pyramid keeps its base 50 at the bottom and 1 at the top, you have to implement, if you give more freedom to PvP, you have to give them a harder penalty. So in other words, when you put them into Lowsec, if you knock out their power usage on the mod like crazy, like it knocks out their shield, it now gives them a very big risk. So it will take out the top of the pyramid and the bottom of the pyramid at the same time. So when you balance it out, it's fair. But when you don't balance your pyramid, you just end up shaving your pyramid into a diamond. And when you're balancing on a diamond, you can just topple at any time.
That's an interesting point that you make there. Yeah. And could that be something that could be implemented into the game? Now, is that something that's in EVE Online? Because I have no
No, not really. EVE Online, their system always fluctuates up and down. They nerf weapons to change metas. So you can't keep using the same weapons over and over again for the same purpose. I think they change it like every 3 months.
Yeah, so an interesting topic there, and I'm sure we'll see more of the Lowsec ratters getting hit on a daily basis, not only by immortals, but by everybody else that's deciding to have fun in Lowsec. So yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on that and see how it affects the game in the future.
Rip.
All right, so a lot of us are probably part, I mean, okay, so here's the topic. Large corp versus small corp, which do you prefer? Now, I want to sort out what's considered a large corp and what's considered a small corp. A small corp could be upwards of like 50 people in my mind, or some people may say, no, a small corp is 20 people or less, or a large corp is 190 people. Me personally, I have 3 corps. So I probably fit in the large corp area, but I know nothing about small corps. So as to me answering this question, which do I prefer? I guess it's large corp.
I definitely support the small corp community. I've always been the type of guy to have a small group of guys and take them out for a roam, and they be the most elite PvP guys compared to the numbers game where people bring like three numbers to your one, and we still win. You know, I just large corp does have its have its perks, especially with the constant money flow from ratters, etc. So there's pros and cons to each, but I'd say for an elite PvP based corp, being a small corp that only accepts guys that are like very experienced and very notorious for being experienced, and that's the route that I'm going for.
Go ahead, Judge.
All right, for me, this game is a sandbox 24/7 MMO. So, generally speaking, unlike for Immortals, most of us have citadels or capsuleer outposts. So, since this is a 24/7 game, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, your stuff can come under attack. So, a large corp is one that can protect you because you will have a presence 24/7. And what that means is having people on all time zones. That's a large corp. A small corp sounds like what you have, Rambo, which you only have people that are probably in your specific time zone, where if a Europe or Asian time zone corp decides to come and attack you,
You mean
you're
Immortals?
going to have to wake up at... Huh?
You mean Immortals?
You're going to have to wake up at ungodly hours to protect your game, you know, and that's a choice that you're going to have to do if you want it. But with a large corp who may have all 3 major time zones covered, you don't have to worry about it, where you just wake up and be told, "Hey, we defended your citadel, your post from whoever."
On that note of large corp versus small corp, large corps favor people for more PvE based activities, and small corps favor people for doing heavier PvP activities. So generally, they have that flow. The more income in your corp that comes from PvE, you generally can sustain a larger corp, and the more income you can sustain from PvP, it's generally going to be smaller corps. And that's because of that whole element of having the right flow to your corporation. It's not so much about the size of the corp really that makes a difference. It's the activity that you do that gives you your size. Because if you go too large and you end up engaging in too much of PvP, you end up killing your corp. You strangle out the lower level players, and eventually it's that that is deprivation that pushes players out of the game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so large corp definitely has it all, right? They have all the time zones covered. They have ISK and assets. They have mining, industry, PvP, PvE. They have like everything all 24/7, right? Going around the clock. Now, with the PvP corps or the smaller corps, they're more consolidated. They're definitely not as technical. They don't have to worry about certain things like buyback. They probably have to deal with things like SRP and deal with stuff like that. But otherwise, the small corps are definitely more simplified. But as a new player, do you want to get shoved into a small corp and learn the hard way, or do you want to get into a large corp and kind of have that comfy pillow to rest your head on while you learn the game?
I know for me, like when I started in what was a small corp that started to grow, and then through those waves of people dropping the game from, the introduction of the bubbles and from insurance and stuff, we got down to being a very small corp, and then merged with a larger corp. And I think it's kind of what Elementary said. It's kind of based on your activity. The one thing I will say is with the small corp, there is a stronger sense of community. Like you get to know the people in your corp, I think, very, very well. But we were able to carry that over into a larger corp where there is still that strong sense of community, and everything is interdependent on each other. The PvP people go out in, typically in small group roams. So you have still that small team of people that do that, but they're supported by the indie players who are, bringing in mats and stuff to keep replacing our ships, if we lose them, or to, give new people that come in, they're in for a month. Hey, here's a free retriever. Here's a free this. Here's a free that, to help you do what you want to do. And then the PvE people are the ones that are getting materials, through special anomalies and blueprints, whatever. So we're not, I'm not making a 40 run trip up to Jita for rigs or for blueprints. It's all self-sustaining down in Nullsec because we have a little bit of everything, and we focus like 3 small corps, if you will, in one big umbrella that all get along because we're all doing our focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Judge, you made the point about, these smaller corps. Yes, it's a sandbox MMO. They're not online 24/7. They're subject to get under attack. But like a Merc Corp, they live in high sec, or they live in somebody else's outposts. So it's kind of like, I don't know, they're living like outlaws.
Oh yeah, definitely. Pew and No are definitely pains in the rear end.
But yeah, you can't get rid of them. They first of all, they continuously grow, dead, and they live in high sec. So where can you attack them where it hurts? Mortals, did you have something to touch on that?
You really can't. Go.
Yeah, I say, yeah, to be honest, yeah, we are a pain in the ass. That's the reason why we get hired. Be a pain in the ass, and pretty much, show people who we really are as mercs and outlaws and pirates. Can't say right now though. Yeah, we do live in Jeddah, but we also do live right next to those bridges, those gaps where Lowsec and Nullsec connect. I'll tell you right now, K4 by Ned has always been my home, and I've killed billions of ISK by myself. I can imagine what Pew and No has done in Lowsec, you know. So.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on something else when it comes to that the same topic on the outlaw situation with some of the corps. If anybody remembers Mercenary Coalition, when the corp grew too large, we managed to infiltrate it with spies like crazy, and we managed to infiltrate it with propaganda. I was actually part of that whole saga campaign against Genesis Federation. I actually lit up quite a bit of the fire in that war. I went and I personally contributed towards taking on those corps because I knew I could help destroy Merc. And if the Merc Corp went, I knew that there was a chance you could destabilize certain alliances because I knew like Silent had an alliance with Merc Corp, which was dependent on Genesis. So if you can get rid of Merc Corp, then Silent has a reason to attack Gen. And I knew if you take out Gen's internal revenue service, their connection with Borg, you can cause them to sever more links. And I went and I spiked everything up inside there, and I pushed some information that was false, to be honest, and I pushed it through many channels who were people who ended up burning out against me because they were feeding information for me. And it shows that big corps do have their problems, even though they're safe, they can fall to internal strife that easy. And the small corps, it's not so easy. Like Merc only fell because they grew beyond a certain number of members.
Right. Yeah, and you touched on that. It's like these larger corps. It's probably easier to get in, just depending on their recruiting, I guess. Depending on how efficient their recruiting is about as efficient as other corps can get spies in there.
And to touch on again about the Merc Corps, since they're technically considered small corps, since obviously they don't have SOV and they're not running full on industry, they must have some industry, or else how are they getting their shifts? They are a necessary part for this game, just for either through their contracts that they get from contractee A to target B, or what was happening for me in the 4th of July weekend, noticing some Pew No randomly just roaming. And I'm like, are you guys under contract? Do I need to be worried? They're like, no, I'm just roaming. It's like, okay, well, that's good to know, because now I have to keep having my butt cheeks clenched, and here we go. That's just life in Null. And it's just a part that I always have to worry about, and that anyone should.
Yeah, had a little one there. Yeah. Now I talked to Tahini, and he was saying that it's not really so much of a secret anymore, but they do have like not an underground industry, but they do have. It's not even really an internal industry. It's more of a contact industry to whom they can get ships out of and at discounted prices or whatever. So they're working with other potentially other corps. I don't know about null-sec corps. That's beyond my pay grade. But they do have a method of getting these ships for a cheaper cost, rather than having a full self-sufficient industry. So, yeah, it's just very interesting. Large corp versus small corp. Small corps, they have their shit together. Probably a lot less drama. More tightly knit, but the large corps are comfortable. They have typically the citadels, they got buyback, they have everything that y'all want, basically, right? So that's it. We're done. We went through all the topics. So
Nice.
yeah. I mean, we talked through them all. If you guys got any more pointers, we could talk about them. I know we just passed an hour and 10 minutes, so we should probably be wrapping it up. Yeah.
It was all good
Definitely.
talks. Rip.
Hell yeah. Rip.
All right. Well, that concludes this week's roundtable chat. Thank you guys for being a part of this special sode, and we'll see you guys next time for another special episode of Roundtable Chat. So thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, that is it for this week. If you like the show, please review it on Apple Podcasts or on my Discord or on Spotify. I guess it's on there too. I want to know your feedback. For those that have reached out to me, thank you. This episode was brought to you by Borg. Borg sponsors this show. We are Borg, we are family. That's their motto. They're a very large organization that has industry and mining, PvP focused programs, just as top notch as any other PvP program out there. They look out for all their drones in the collective. They have a great community both in and out of the game. They have sci-fi fans, D&D fans, fans of other RPG games. And there's always someone to talk to in comps. You too can be one with the Borg. Life in Lowsec is good, full of riches to be had, and you can be a part of it. Go check out Borg. Resistance is futile. Also, if you haven't yet, please come and join my Discord. You can submit your very own corp ad. I have a section just for corp ads. You can come on to the show, support, hang out, say hi, talk with the other people. Also provide topics to talk about in the roundtable talks that we've been discussing. So I'll leave that link in the description. And if you even want more Eve Echoes news and a deeper dive into what's going on in the galaxy, check out Damon Zell over on YouTube on his Echoes of the Front YouTube show, where he goes over game news, gets juicy alliance drama, talks about battles, Sov, all, and much more. Thank you everybody for listening. Take care, fly safe, and I'll see you next week.